Barcelona 6-1 PSG. Barcelona against Paris Saint-Germain in 2017 was one of the most extraordinary nights in the history of the Champions League. The round of 16 tie looked finished after the first leg in Paris. PSG completely dismantled Barcelona, winning 4-0 with goals from Angel Di Maria, Julian Draxler, and Edinson Cavani. At that point, no team in the Champions League era had ever overturned a 4-goal deficit. The second leg at Camp Nou was seen as little more than a formality. For Barcelona, however, elimination at this stage would have been catastrophic. They had one of the greatest attacking trios in football history, Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, and Neymar, but they risked going out in humiliating fashion if they did not respond. The return leg on March 8, 2017 began with Barcelona attacking relentlessly. Luis Suarez scored inside 3 minutes, immediately giving the stadium belief. Their tactical approach was clear: press high, flood the box with runners, and unsettle PSG's backline. They played with far greater aggression than in Paris, with Neymar and Messi constantly driving at defenders. PSG's usually composed midfield could not cope with the intensity. Shortly before halftime, Layvin Kurzawa scored an own goal to make it 2-0, and the comeback suddenly felt possible. After the break, Messi scored a penalty for 3-0. At that moment, Barcelona were only 1 goal away from leveling the tie, but Edinson Cavani's powerful finish for PSG looked like the decisive blow, since an away goal meant Barcelona now needed 3 more. With only minutes left, PSG still held a 5-3 aggregate advantage, yet what followed was astonishing. Neymar curled in a free kick in the 88th minute, then scored a penalty in the 91st. Suddenly, Barcelona needed only 1 more. With nearly the final kick of the match, Neymar delivered a perfect chipped cross into the box, and Sergi Roberto stretched to stab it home. The stadium erupted as Barcelona won 6-1, advancing 6-5 on aggregate. The tactical elements behind this comeback were crucial. Luis Enrique ordered constant pressing and risk-taking, leaving his defense exposed but ensuring chance after chance in attack. Neymar, who dominated the final 10 minutes, played the best match of his Barcelona career. The comeback was not only about scoring goals, it was about belief, about refusing to accept defeat, even when logic said it was impossible. This victory became known as La Remontada, the comeback, and it remains one of the most unforgettable nights in football history. Liverpool 3-3 AC Milan. The 2005 Champions League final between Liverpool and AC Milan is remembered as the Miracle of Istanbul. For Liverpool, reaching the final itself was already an achievement, but against an all-star Milan side featuring Paolo Maldini, Andrea Pirlo, Clarence Seedorf, Kaká, Andriy Shevchenko, and Hernan Crespo, they were heavy underdogs. The match started disastrously. Within 50 seconds, Maldini volleyed Milan ahead. By halftime, Liverpool were trailing 3-0 after 2 brilliant goals from Crespo, one set up by a masterful Kaká through ball. For many fans inside the Ataturk Olympic Stadium, the game felt finished. Some Liverpool supporters even left their seats, unable to watch further. Yet the second half produced one of the most famous turnarounds in football history. Liverpool manager Rafael Benitez made a crucial tactical adjustment, switching from a flat 4-man midfield to a 3-5-2 formation. This allowed captain Steven Gerrard to push further forward, supported by fullbacks who became wingbacks. Gerrard scored in the 54th minute with a header, giving Liverpool a glimmer of hope. 2 minutes later, Vladimir Smicer struck from long range to make it 3-2. Suddenly, belief spread through the stadium. The defining moment came in the 60th minute. Gerrard surged into the box and was fouled, winning a penalty. Xabi Alonso's effort was saved by Dida, but he buried the rebound to complete a 6-minute spell in which Liverpool had clawed back from 3 goals down to level at 3-3. Milan, stunned, never fully recovered. From then on, it became a battle of survival. Liverpool goalkeeper Jerzy Dudek made a series of vital saves, including a double stop against Shevchenko late in extra time. The match went to penalties, and Dudek famously danced on his line to distract Milan's shooters. Liverpool triumphed 3-2 in the shootout, lifting their 5th European Cup. The comeback was remarkable not only for the scoreline, but for the mental resilience. Benitez's tactical switch gave Liverpool control, Gerrard's leadership ignited belief, and Dudek's eccentric but effective goalkeeping sealed the victory. It showed how a team, even when outclassed on paper, could turn a hopeless situation into triumph through courage, adaptation, and sheer willpower. Manchester United 2-1 Bayern Munich. The 1999 Champions League final between Manchester United and Bayern Munich in Barcelona's Camp Nou is one of the most dramatic endings ever witnessed in football. Both clubs were giants of Europe, but Bayern dominated the match from the opening minutes. In just the 6th minute, Mario Basler's free kick sneaked past Peter Schmeichel, giving Bayern a 1-0 lead. From that point on, Bayern controlled the rhythm, hitting the post twice and forcing United to defend for long stretches. Sir Alex Ferguson's side looked beaten. They were missing their two main midfielders, Roy Keane and Paul Scholes, through suspension, and their replacements struggled to cope with Bayern's passing game. As the clock ticked past the 90th minute, Bayern were already preparing their celebration ribbons for the trophy. But United's resilience defined what happened next. Ferguson's team had built their season on late goals, and in stoppage time, they produced two of the most famous in football history. In the 91st minute, Ryan Giggs's scuffed shot fell perfectly to Teddy Sheringham, who guided the ball into the net to equalize. The stadium erupted, and suddenly Bayern were stunned. They had been minutes from glory, and now they faced extra time. But United didn't stop. Just 2 minutes later, in the 93rd minute, David Beckham's corner was flicked on by Sheringham. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, known as the Super Sub, stuck out his foot and fired the ball into the roof of the net. In the space of 100 seconds, United had turned defeat into victory, winning 2-1. Bayern players collapsed to the turf in disbelief, while United completed their historic treble of Premier League, FA Cup, and Champions League all in the same season. The tactics behind this comeback were simple but effective. Ferguson threw on attacking players late in the game, Sheringham and Solskjaer, sacrificing midfield control for striking power. United also relied heavily on Beckham's precise set-piece delivery, which directly created both goals. But beyond tactics, this was a triumph of mentality. Ferguson's famous line, "Football bloody hell," summed up how belief and refusal to accept defeat carried United through. This victory did not just win them the Champions League, it defined an era of Manchester United dominance and gave football one of its most iconic moments when a game can change completely in seconds. Roma 3-0, Barcelona. In 2018, Roma against Barcelona in the Champions League quarterfinals delivered one of the most astonishing turnarounds in modern football. The first leg at Camp Nou ended 4-1 to Barcelona. Own goals from Roma's Daniele De Rossi and Costas Manolas, along with strikes from Gerard Piqué and Luis Suarez, made it seem impossible for the Italians to come back. Barcelona, led by Lionel Messi, had one foot in the semifinals. For Roma, the deficit was massive, and few gave them any chance of recovery. The second leg at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome was played on April 10th. Roma needed at least 3 goals without conceding to advance on away goals. Their manager, Eusebio Di Francesco, made a daring tactical decision by shifting to a 3-4-1-2 system. This setup pressed high, with wingbacks Alessandro Florenzi and Aleksandar Kolarov pushing forward constantly, while Edin Dzeko spearheaded the attack. Roma's strategy was not to sit back, but to suffocate Barcelona and force mistakes. From the opening whistle, Roma played with relentless intensity. Edin Dzeko scored in the 6th minute, which instantly lifted belief inside the stadium. Roma pressed Barcelona's midfield so aggressively that even Sergio Busquets and Ivan Rakitic struggled to find rhythm. The second goal came in the 58th minute when Dzeko was brought down in the box and De Rossi converted the penalty. At 2-0, the tie was alive, and Barcelona looked rattled. The decisive moment arrived in the 82nd minute. Costas Manolas, the defender who had scored an own goal in the first leg, rose highest to head home from a corner, making it 3-0. The stadium erupted, and the aggregate score was now 4-4, with Roma advancing on away goals. In the final minutes, Barcelona's stars could not respond. Messi was surrounded every time he touched the ball, and Neymar was no longer there to rescue them as in 2017. Roma's comeback was not only about goals, it was tactical perfection and mental resilience. Di Francesco's bold system neutralized Barcelona's possession game. Every Roma player pressed and fought as if their season depended on it. For the club, it was historic, reaching the semi-finals of the Champions League for the first time in decades by eliminating one of Europe's superpowers. For Barcelona, it was a collapse that exposed vulnerabilities in a team once considered unbeatable. Deportivo La Coruña, 4-0 AC Milan. In 2004, Deportivo La Coruña produced one of the greatest comebacks in Champions League history against AC Milan. The defending champions, Milan, were one of the strongest teams in Europe at the time, with legends such as Paolo Maldini, Andrea Pirlo, Kaká, Andriy Shevchenko, and Clarence Seedorf. In the first leg of the quarterfinal at San Siro, Milan demolished Deportivo 4-1, with Kaká scoring twice. The tie looked dead. No team had ever overturned a 3-goal deficit against Milan in European competition, and Deportivo were seen as outsiders even before the first kick. The return leg at the Riazor on April 7, 2004, was expected to be a formality for Milan. Instead, Deportivo unleashed one of the most relentless performances ever seen. Javier Irureta, Deportivo's coach, set his team up in a high-pressing 4-2-3-1 formation, forcing Milan's midfield into mistakes and using quick transitions to exploit gaps. The Spanish side played with an intensity that Milan never matched. Within 5 minutes, Walter Pandiani scored the opener, immediately igniting belief. Deportivo kept attacking, and in the 35th minute, Juan Carlos Valerón added a second with a clever header. The aggregate was now 4-3, and the pressure was firmly on Milan. Just before halftime, Albert Luque struck a third goal, leveling the tie at 4-4. The momentum was entirely with Deportivo, and Milan looked stunned and disorganized. In the second half, Deportivo continued to swarm their opponents. Milan's normally calm midfield of Pirlo and Gattuso could not find any rhythm. In the 76th minute, Fran scored the decisive fourth goal of the night, completing the comeback and making it 5-4 on aggregate. The Riazor exploded, and Deportivo managed the final minutes with composure, preventing Milan from finding any late lifeline. The key to Deportivo's success was their tactical aggression. Instead of being cautious, they played fearlessly, pressing Milan high and forcing turnovers. They targeted Milan's defense with direct running and constant pressure. Mentally, the Spanish side treated the game like a final, refusing to give their opponents time to breathe. This result remains legendary not only because of the scale of the comeback, but also because of who it was against. AC Milan were European champions and one of the most complete squads of their generation. For Deportivo La Coruña, a club from a small city in Spain, this night represented the peak of their history, as they advanced to the semifinals after pulling off a feat that seemed impossible. Tottenham 3-2 Ajax. The 2019 Champions League semi-final between Tottenham Hotspur and Ajax delivered one of the most emotional comebacks the competition has ever seen. Ajax, a young and fearless team led by manager Erik ten Hag, had already eliminated Real Madrid and Juventus. Their attacking football, driven by Frankie de Jong, Matthijs de Ligt, Hakim Ziyech, and Dusan Tadic, made them the surprise story of the tournament. In the first leg in London, Ajax won 1-0, showing composure and maturity beyond their years. Going into the second leg at the Johan Cruyff Arena, Tottenham faced the daunting task of overturning the deficit. Ajax began the return match brilliantly. Within 5 minutes, captain Matthijs de Ligt powered in a header to double their aggregate advantage. Hakim Ziyech added another with a precise curling strike, giving Ajax a 2-0 lead on the night and 3-0 overall. At that point, the final looked set. Ajax were cruising, and Tottenham's hopes seemed over. But the second half produced one of the most unforgettable turnarounds in Champions League history. Tottenham's manager, Mauricio Pochettino, urged his team to push forward with greater urgency. He introduced Fernando Llorente to add physical presence up front and created space for Lucas Moura to exploit with his speed. The tactical adjustment worked immediately. In the 55th minute, Lucas Moura finished off a quick counter-attack to make it 2-1. Just 4 minutes later, after a scramble in the Ajax box, Moura struck again with a sharp finish to level the match at 2-2. Ajax, suddenly nervous, still held the aggregate lead. They hit the post through Ziyech, and Hugo Lloris was forced into a crucial save. As stoppage time began, Tottenham still needed one more goal to advance. In the 96th minute, with nearly the last kick of the game, Dele Alli received the ball at the edge of the box and slid it through for Lucas Moura. Moura completed his hat trick with a precise low finish, making it 3-2 on the night and 3-3 on aggregate. Tottenham advanced to the final on away goals, leaving Ajax players collapsed in tears. The comeback was the product of tactical bravery and relentless spirit. Pochettino's decision to go more direct with Llorente unsettled Ajax's defense, while Moura's pace and composure under pressure delivered one of the greatest individual performances in a semi-final. For Tottenham, it was the first Champions League final in their history, achieved in the most dramatic fashion possible. Chelsea 4-1 Napoli. In 2012, Chelsea's Champions League campaign seemed destined for collapse before they staged a famous comeback against Napoli in the round of 16. The first leg in Naples ended 3-1 to the Italians. Napoli, led by Edinson Cavani, Ezequiel Lavezzi, and Marek Hamšík, were dynamic in attack, and Chelsea looked disorganized. Their away goal gave them some hope, but most believed the tie was beyond them. Chelsea were also in turmoil at the time, having sacked manager Andre Villas-Boas just weeks earlier. Roberto Di Matteo stepped in as interim manager, tasked with steadying the team. The second leg at Stamford Bridge on March 14th was a night of high drama. Chelsea needed at least a 2-0 win to progress. The team's veterans, many of whom had been criticized for being past their best, rose to the occasion. Didier Drogba opened the scoring with a powerful header in the 28th minute, instantly lifting the atmosphere. Early in the second half, John Terry doubled the lead with another header, making it 2-0 and leveling the aggregate score at 3-3. Napoli responded through Gökhan Inler, whose strike from the edge of the box restored their aggregate advantage. Chelsea, however, kept pressing. In the 75th minute, Frank Lampard converted a penalty to make it 3-1 on the night, forcing extra time. At this point, the match could have gone either way, but Chelsea's experience proved decisive. In the 105th minute, Branislav Ivanovic smashed in a finish from close range to give Chelsea a 4-1 lead on the night and 5-4 on aggregate. The stadium erupted, and Chelsea held on to complete the turnaround. This comeback was significant because it reignited Chelsea's season. The tactical shift under Di Matteo emphasized discipline and unity, with the team relying on their veteran core, Drogba, Lampard, and Terry, who delivered under immense pressure. The victory became a defining moment in Chelsea's campaign, giving them the confidence to go on and eventually win the Champions League that year, defeating Bayern Munich in the final. It wasn't just about the goals, it was about resilience, leadership, and the refusal to surrender despite chaos off the pitch. For many Chelsea fans, this night marked the rebirth of belief in a squad that was written off, and it proved to be the foundation of their greatest European triumph. Barcelona 5-1 Chelsea. In 2000, Barcelona produced a remarkable comeback against Chelsea in the Champions League quarterfinals, showcasing both their attacking power and tactical adaptability. The first leg at Stamford Bridge ended 3-1 to Chelsea. Goals from Gianfranco Zola, Tore Andre Flo, and Gustavo Poyet had stunned Barcelona, leaving them with a mountain to climb in the return leg. Luis Figo's late strike gave Barca an away goal, but most believed Chelsea were in control heading into the Camp Nou. The second leg on April 18, 2000, unfolded into a classic. Barcelona needed at least 2 goals to progress, and their intent was clear from the start. Under manager Louis van Gaal, they set up aggressively, with Rivaldo, Patrick Kluivert, and Luis Figo forming a relentless attacking trio. Barcelona dominated possession, stretching Chelsea's defense and forcing them deep into their own half. Dani Garcia opened the scoring in the 24th minute, putting Barcelona ahead on the night. Just before halftime, Rivaldo added a second with a powerful header, leveling the tie at 3-3 on aggregate. Early in the second half, Patrick Kluivert made it 3-0 with a well-taken finish, putting Barcelona in front overall. At this point, Chelsea were under siege, yet they refused to collapse entirely. Tore Andre Flo, who had been a constant threat in the first leg, struck in the 60th minute to make it 3-1, forcing the match into extra time at 4-4 on aggregate. In extra time, Barcelona's class and depth proved decisive. Rivaldo converted a penalty in the 99th minute to restore their lead, and in the 104th, Luis Figo set up Kluivert to secure the decisive goal. Barcelona won 5-1 on the night and 6-4 on aggregate, completing the comeback and advancing to the semifinals. The keys to Barcelona's success were their relentless attack and tactical flexibility. Van Gaal encouraged his fullbacks to push high, overwhelming Chelsea's defense, while Rivaldo and Figo constantly switched positions to create confusion. Chelsea, who had looked so confident in London, simply could not withstand Barcelona's intensity in the Camp Nou. For Barcelona, this comeback reinforced their reputation as one of Europe's most dangerous attacking forces at the time. For Chelsea, it was a brutal lesson in how quickly control can slip away in European competition. The match remains one of the classic examples of how a first-leg advantage can vanish under the pressure of relentless, high-quality opposition.